Hello everyone. Today I will continue sharing with you the heartfelt love story between the single mother Diệu Hân and the young engineer Tan. I hope you enjoy the video. From the day Tan met Han, it felt as if an invisible thread inside him kept urging him to care for her, to protect her. Every time he saw her struggling to raise little Tom, his heart grew heavier, filled with both sympathy and affection. At first, Tan only helped quietly. Small things like fixing a leaking roof, chopping firewood, or going to the fields with her to share the burdens of life. Even Tana's mother, once known to be very strict, gradually opened her heart after spending time with Han. She clearly saw Han's kindness, her resilience, and her boundless love for her child. One afternoon, while Tan was still busy in the kitchen, his mother gently placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes warm. "My son, if you truly care for Han, then be brave and say it. I believe that a woman like her deserves to be loved and protected." Those words gave Tan newfound strength. From that day, he no longer helped Han merely as a friend, but slowly revealed his feelings. His gestures of care became more obvious. Sometimes a gentle reminder, other times a sincere gaze he could not hide. One evening, after putting Tom to bed, Tan hesitantly approached Han. Under the flickering oil lamp, his voice trembled yet carried determination. "Han, maybe you think I'm unworthy or that there are too many barriers, but I just want you to know I truly care for you and Tom. I don't want to just stand by and watch you both struggle anymore. Please give me the chance to walk beside you, to be the support you can rely on." Han sat in silence, her heart stirred by an undercurrent of emotions. She lowered her face, her fingers twisting nervously, unable to meet his eyes. In the dim light, her expression was filled with confusion and weariness. "Anh Thang, I know you're a good man, but I'm so afraid," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm afraid that if I trust again and face disappointment, not only I but Tom will be hurt. I can't let my child grow up in brokenness once more." Her words pierced Tana's heart. He looked at her with deep sorrow, but instead of rushing to argue or defend himself, he quietly moved closer, resting his hand gently on her shoulder, warm and steady. "I understand, Han. I don't need your answer right now. Just know that I'll always be here beside you and Tom, no matter what you choose. Time will prove everything," he said, his voice calm yet firm. From that day on, Han began noticing Tana's presence more deeply. Each morning when she opened the door, he was already mending the broken fence. At noon, under the scorching sun, his silhouette carried heavy buckets of water back for the mother and child. At night, when Tom cried, he would cradle the boy patiently until he fell asleep. Those small acts, day after day, quietly touched her heart. One time, after returning from the fields, drenched in sweat, Han sank down on the steps exhausted. Tan brought her a bowl of cool water and a clean towel. He didn't say much, just placed them down and sat beside her in silence. But when she lifted her head and caught his eyes watching her, her heart skipped. That moment felt like a closed bud suddenly opening to the warmth of sunlight, strange yet familiar. Tan never rushed, never forced her, but stayed patiently by her side. He knew Han's past was like a deep wound that could not heal overnight. Instead, he chose to prove his love through actions, little by little, so she would believe his confession was not fleeting but a true promise. That evening, sitting by the fire, Han suddenly remembered Tana's mother's words. "If my son chooses you, it must be because you are worthy." Her heart trembled, the wall she had built over the years beginning to crack. In the glow of the firelight, she turned to look at Tan, the man patiently mending Tom's worn-out sandals, and wondered, had fate truly brought him here to ease her burdens, to give Tom the complete home she had long dreamed of? One morning, little Tom had a slight fever. While cooking porridge, Han grew restless, thinking she still needed to go to the market to buy some medicine and vegetables for dinner. Looking at her son lying on the bed, his face flushed with heat, her mind grew more and more unsettled. Just then, Ton walked in carrying a basket of freshly picked corn. Seeing the scene, he quickly set it down and asked, "What's going on, Han? Why do you look so pale?" Han hesitated. She had always been used to handling everything alone, never wanting to trouble anyone. But the sincerity and worry in Tana's eyes suddenly made her feel she could trust him. She bit her lip lightly, her voice soft. "Tom has a bit of a fever. I was planning to go to the market to get some vegetables and medicine, but I don't feel safe leaving him home alone. Ton, could you go with me?" Tana's eyes lit up, both surprised and glad. He nodded without hesitation. "Of course. I'll go with you. Or better yet, you stay home with Tom and let me do the shopping." But Han shook her head gently, her fingers unconsciously gripping her clothes. "No, I want to go. I just need you to come along so I'll feel at ease." And so, for the first time, they went to the market together. Ton carried the basket, walking quietly beside her, always attentive to her every step. When she picked out vegetables, he patiently waited. When she fumbled with her money, he quietly held out his hand to help. These simple gestures gave Han a strange warmth, the feeling of not being alone, of truly having someone to share life's burdens with. On the way back, Han stole a glance at him. The morning sunlight shone on his sun-browned face, giving him an air of strength and steadiness. Her heart fluttered softly. Perhaps this was the first step she allowed herself to trust again. Not just leaning on his help, but entrusting a piece of her life into this man's hands. That evening, after Tom's fever subsided and he had fallen asleep, Han sat alone on the porch. She recalled the morning scene, Tana's strong hands carrying the basket of vegetables, his watchful gaze following her every move. A faint smile tugged at her lips. She couldn't say it out loud, but inside she quietly admitted. Tana's devotion was slowly cracking the walls around her heart, letting the light of trust seep in. In the days that followed, not only Tan but even his mother began to notice the change in her. Once distant, Han now hesitated less, smiled a little more whenever Tan came to help. Watching from the side, his mother felt both joy and warmth. One afternoon, as Han was hanging laundry in the yard, his mother walked over carrying a basket of freshly shelled beans. Sitting down on a small wooden chair, she looked at Han kindly. "Han," she began gently, "these past days I've seen how hard you've worked. But I've also seen how carefully Tom looks after you and little Tom. Have you noticed?" Han froze, her hands slowing as she wrung the cloth. She lowered her head and replied awkwardly, "Yes, I know. But there are still many things I'm not ready to think about." His mother smiled, the knowing smile of someone seasoned by life. Setting down the beans, she took Han's hand in hers, her voice warm like a quiet confession. "My dear, everyone carries wounds from the past. But if you keep your heart shut forever, you'll only deny yourself and little Tom the happiness you both deserve. I'm not saying you must decide right away, but look at Ton. He's never given up. Every act of his is for you and that boy. His heart is right there before your eyes." Han was silent, her eyes welling up with tears, though there was also a gentle glimmer within them. She thought of all the moments with Ton, his steady hand when she faltered, the worry in his gaze when Tom was ill, and the gentle smile whenever he finished a small task to help her. His mother patted her hand, as if to lend her courage. "Happiness doesn't always come twice. When your heart stirs, don't be afraid to give it a chance. I believe you deserve love, and Ton is strong enough to protect both you and your son." Han looked up and met the woman's trusting gaze. Her heart quivered as though a warm breeze had just swept through. In that moment, she realized it wasn't only Ton, but his whole family who were ready to welcome her. The fragile trust within her finally found a place to rest, and she began to learn, slowly, carefully, how to open her heart and embrace the happiness waiting at her door. That night, after Tom had fallen into a deep sleep, Han sat on the porch, her eyes tracing the moonlight flickering through the leaves. The steady hum of crickets in the dark only weighed her heart down more. Ton had just finished checking around the garden. Seeing her sitting so quietly, he slowly walked over and sat down beside her. He didn't ask anything, simply sat there in silence, giving her a sense of safety. After a long pause, Han finally spoke, her voice so soft it was as if the wind might carry it away. "Maybe you think I'm weak, but the truth is I've never stopped being afraid. All these years I've had to brace myself, being both father and mother to Tom. By day I force myself to look strong, but at night, all I can do is hold my child and cry. I'm terrified of trusting someone again, only to be abandoned once more." Tom listened in silence, his eyes filled with sorrow. He didn't interrupt, didn't interject, only tilted his head slightly toward her, as if to let her know he was listening with his whole heart. "There are times I want to give up, but when I look at Tom I can't let myself fall. My child needs a home, a peaceful childhood. What I fear most is, if I make a mistake again, it will be Tom who pays the price." Her eyes welled with tears as her trembling hand pressed against her chest. Hearing this, Tom let out a quiet sigh, then gently took her shaking hand into his own warm, firm, steady. "Han, you are not weak. You've endured so many years of hardship and still stood tall, still raised Tom into a kind boy. That's a strength not everyone has. I don't want to change your past. I only want to be a part of your present and your future." Han slowly lifted her gaze and met Tana's eyes. So sincere, so earnest they brought a lump to her throat. For the first time in years, she felt relieved to voice the pain she had long kept hidden. His patient listening, his empathy in every word, soothed the old wound in her heart. In that quiet night, something inside her shifted. She no longer saw Tan merely as a kind neighbor or a helpful friend, but as a true support she could lean on. Though she still carried hesitation, she knew she had taken a step forward, a small but vital step toward unlocking her heart. After that night, when Han had bared her soul, Tan didn't say much more. Only after she went inside did he remain sitting alone on the porch, gazing up at the stars. In his heart, a silent vow echoed. "Han, I'll prove it to you. I will never let you be hurt again." A few days later, while Han was busy cutting grass in the yard, little Tom played near the gate. Suddenly, a strange dog rushed in, its fur bristling, growling as it advanced toward the boy. Terrified, Tom burst into tears and stumbled backward against the fence. Hearing his cries, Han panicked and ran toward him, but she was too far away. Her heart seized in fear, helplessness crashing over her. In that instant, Tan came running from the garden. Without a moment's hesitation, he threw himself in front of Tom. Grabbing a stick nearby, he shouted firmly, driving the dog away. The animal growled a few more times before retreating, leaving the yard tense and breathless. Tom clung to Tana's leg, sobbing, terrified yet holding on to him as if he were the only fortress left. Han rushed over, kneeling to embrace her son, but her eyes were fixed on Tan, filled with gratitude, mingled with the trembling of her heart. Tan bent down, gently patting Tom's head, his voice soft. "It's all right now. As long as I'm here, you don't have to be afraid." Watching that scene, Han felt a swell of emotion within her. That moment made her realize Tan wasn't just speaking empty words. He truly was willing to stand in front of danger to protect her and her child. That evening, as the three of them sat around the fire, Tom refused to let go of Tana's hand, occasionally nestling into his arms. Seeing this, Han's heart trembled softly, and in the silence she whispered to herself, "Maybe this time I can trust." That day, after the incident with the fierce dog, the house still carried a lingering sense of awe and emotion. Little Tom clung tightly to Tan, refusing to let go, chattering excitedly to his mother over and over. "Uncle Tan chased away the big dog. He protected me." His childlike eyes sparkled with admiration. Han looked at her son, then at Ton, her heart swelling with feelings she could hardly put into words. Before, she had always kept her distance, afraid to let anyone step closer. But today the image of Ton shielding Tom with determined eyes and a protective stance struck like a hammer, cracking open the wall of fear she had built for so long. As dusk settled, Han quietly prepared dinner. When she noticed Ton getting ready to leave as usual, she hesitated for a few seconds. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the tray. Her lips pressed tight before she gathered all her courage and softly said, "Would you stay and have dinner with me and Tom? It's nothing fancy, just a few simple dishes." The moment the words left her lips, Han felt her heart pound, her cheeks warm with embarrassment. It was the first time she had ever invited him. Just a small gesture, yet carrying great meaning, like admitting that he had finally taken a step into her and her son's world. Ton paused for a beat. In the warm golden light of the kitchen, his face brightened with a gentle smile, his eyes glimmering with joy he could barely contain. "I'd be honored. Thank you for this meal." That dinner was simple. A bowl of sweet leaf soup, a plate of braised fish and some boiled greens. Yet, for the three of them it was extraordinary. Tom chattered happily between bites, sometimes placing vegetables into Tana's bowl, while Han couldn't help but laugh at the sight of them playfully fighting over a piece of fish. The warmth and closeness in that little kitchen made her realize it had been so long since laughter had filled the air this way. Afterward, as she cleared up, Han caught sight of Ton gently wiping Tom's face. An unusual warmth spread through her heart. She knew she had taken another step forward, small but vital, toward opening herself to happiness. From that dinner on, the distance between Han and Ton grew shorter. He remained patient, caring not only for Tom's meals and sleep, but also quietly sharing every burden with her. Each day, he showed his love not with fleeting words, but with actions, repairing the roof, rebuilding the trellis for the gourds, or simply handing her a warm cup of tea when she was tired. Though once cautious, Han gradually softened. She no longer resisted his help, even grew used to his presence as something natural in her life. And Tom grew ever more attached to Uncle Ton, treating him as though he were already a father. One evening during the village's harvest festival, Han, Ton, and little Tom walked hand in hand into the courtyard. All eyes turned toward them, eyes full of joy and blessing. Tana's mother beamed, taking Han's hand gently and whispering, "At last you've opened your heart. I believe you will be happy." Amid the jubilant drumbeats, Ton turned to her, squeezing her hand firmly, his gaze sincere and steady. Han smiled, a radiant smile she hadn't worn in years. She nodded, a silent but certain answer, accepting his love and agreeing to step with him into a new journey. Applause broke out, cheers echoing from the villagers around them. Tom shouted gleefully, "Mom, Uncle Ton will live with us now, won't he?" Han hugged her son close, looked over at Ton, and for the first time answered with a voice full of trust, "Yes, from now on we will be a family." In that moment it wasn't just love. It was the rebirth of trust, the warmth of a new home, where three souls had found each other amid the vastness of life, under the blessings of everyone around them. In the late afternoon, the sun blazed red like a giant ember slowly sinking behind the mountains. On the golden fields, little Tom ran and played. His small feet muddied, yet his laughter rang bright and clear across the wide sky. From afar, Han raised her hand to shield her eyes, watching her son with a gentle smile blooming on her lips. Ton walked up quietly, standing shoulder to shoulder with her. No words were needed. In their shared gaze they both understood that from now on they would walk together, watching over those small footsteps, building a peaceful home side by side. The evening breeze carried the sweet fragrance of ripening rice. Overhead, flocks of birds wheeled back to their nests, signaling the close of a fulfilled day. In that moment Han felt the warmth she had long yearned for. A true family with love, trust, and the laughter of a child. Night fell, and the fire crackled in their small home. The three gathered together, Tom chattering away in Tana's arms, while Han quietly watched, her heart overflowing with happiness. For her, the wounds of the past had faded into distant memories, leaving space for a warm present and a future full of hope. Outside, the wind still sang, the moon still glowed. And in that little house on the edge of the village, a new story was being written. The story of love, protection, and a home made whole. Their wedding day had no lavish gown or extravagant banquet. Instead, it was held in the familiar village courtyard, with bright flags fluttering in the breeze and the joyous beat of festival drums. Villagers came in droves, each carrying heartfelt smiles and warm blessings. Han wore a simple ivory dye, her hair neatly tied, her face radiant like never before. Tan stood beside her in a modest but clean suit, his eyes shining as he watched her every step. Little Tom, dressed in a tiny dye, skipped about gleefully, holding tightly to his mother's hand, occasionally looking up at Tan and calling out loudly, "Dad!" The sound made both hearts tremble with emotion. Surrounded by neighbors, the village elder stepped forward and announced, "Today our village celebrates a new joy. Two people who endured hardship have now found each other, joining hands to walk life's path together. Let us bless this family with peace and happiness." Applause and cheers erupted. Tana's mother wiped away her tears, grasping Han's hand as she choked out, "You are my daughter now. From this day on, this home is yours too." At that moment, Han couldn't hold back her tears. She looked at Tan, his hand clasped firmly around hers, strong and unwavering, a lifelong anchor. They exchanged radiant smiles, smiles filled not only with love but also with trust and hope. The wedding feast was a humble countryside meal. Vegetable soup, braised fish, chicken, and sticky rice. Yet the laughter and cheerful voices brimmed with joy. Lanterns lit up the courtyard, children ran about, and adults raised their cups in celebration. Amid the simple setting, the happiness of Han and Tan shone sacred and true. When night descended, the fire still glowed in their little home. The three sat together, eyes overflowing with love. Han rested her head on Tana's shoulder and whispered, "At last, I found my home." Outside, the moon shone brightly, casting the long shadow of three figures on the ground. A complete family, simple yet full of happiness.
Hello mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Chúc mọi người một ngày vui vẻ và hạnh phúc. Hy vọng rằng những video của mình sẽ mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người mỗi khi xem. Và để ủng hộ kênh của mình thì mọi người nhớ để lại cho mình nhận xét ở dưới phần bình luận để những video mới được hay và hấp dẫn hơn. Mọi người nhớ like, share, bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất nha. Hiện tại thì những video của mình sẽ được phát sóng vào lúc 7 giờ tối tại khung giờ Việt Nam. Nếu mọi người thích thì mọi người nhớ chú ý đón xem những video của mình. Và đặc biệt là mình rất mong muốn được sự ủng hộ của mọi người. Nếu mọi người thấy kênh của mình hay thì nhớ chia sẻ giúp mình nha. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của mình. Rất mong kênh của mình sẽ ngày phát triển nhờ có sự ủng hộ của mọi người. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người.